In Hollywood, where celebrity romances tend to follow a very predictable script, there are rare stories that stop you mid-scroll and make you ask, how did that happen? And more importantly, how did it last? Kevin James, the lovable, larger-than-life comedian who made millions of Americans feel seen every single week, quietly married a woman who had almost nothing to do with the spotlight he lived in. No tabloid war, no red carpet courtship, no carefully timed magazine cover announcement. Just a man, deeply famous, falling for a woman who was by Hollywood standards remarkably grounded. Her name is Steffiana de la Cruz, and if you don't know much about her, that is almost entirely by design. So who is she really? Where did she come from? And after more than 2 decades, where is she now? To understand why this relationship caught people off guard, you first have to understand who Kevin James was at the height of his cultural moment. By the early 2000s, Kevin James was everywhere. His stand-up career had already earned him serious respect in comedy circles. But it was the CBS sitcom, The King of Queens, where he played a lovable blue-collar delivery driver from Queens, New York, that turned him into a genuine household name. The show premiered in 1998 and ran for 9 seasons. It was warm, funny, and deeply relatable. Kevin James wasn't playing a polished, aspirational character. He was playing a guy your neighbor could be, a guy your dad might be. That authenticity was the whole point, and audiences loved him for it. He had the kind of fame that doesn't come with edge or controversy. He wasn't a tabloid fixture. He wasn't known for wild nights out or feuds with co-stars. His public image was clean, approachable, and genuine likable, which, in Hollywood, is rarer than it sounds. When he started appearing on the big screen with Adam Sandler's Happy Madison Productions, eventually headlining films like Paul Blart Mall Cop, which became a massive box office success, his star power only grew. So when word spread that Kevin James was getting married, people paid attention. And when the details emerged about who he was marrying, they paid even closer attention. Steffiana de la Cruz was not a stranger to the entertainment world, but she was far from its center. Born to Filipino parents, Steffiana grew up with a background that had very little overlap with the glittering circles Kevin James moved in. She had done some modeling and had appeared in small acting roles, including a minor part in Anger Management in 2003, but she was not a celebrity in any conventional sense. She was not chasing fame. She was not engineering a public profile. The two met in the early 2000s, and by most accounts, their connection was genuine and relatively low-key compared to the kind of courtship stories that typically make entertainment news. There were no dramatic public declarations, no leaked paparazzi images of grand romantic gestures. What made people take notice was the contrast. Here was one of America's most recognizable comedic actors, someone who sold out arenas with stand-up, whose face was on television every week, whose films earned hundreds of millions at the box office, choosing to build his private life with someone almost entirely outside that world. In an industry where coupling up with another celebrity is almost expected, Kevin James did something quietly countercultural. He fell in love with a regular person, or rather, a person who had no interest in becoming anything other than exactly who she was. That, to many observers, said something meaningful about him. When Kevin James and Steffiana de la Cruz married in June of 2004, the reaction from media and fans was curious but largely warm. There was genuine interest in who she was. Entertainment outlets covered the wedding with a kind of gentle fascination. Some pointed to the cultural dimension, a Filipino American woman marrying one of the biggest names in American comedy, as something worth noting. The Filipino community, in particular, embraced the story with a quiet pride. Steffiana became something of a figure of admiration, not because she had achieved celebrity, but because she had simply lived her life and happened to find love with someone very famous. Fan reactions were, by and large, supportive. Kevin James had always projected an image of the everyman, and marrying someone outside the Hollywood bubble only reinforced that. It felt consistent with who he appeared to be. There was no real controversy, no cultural clash narrative pushed by media, no cynicism about the relationship's durability. If anything, the coverage was refreshingly uncomplicated. People seemed to genuinely wish them well. In the years that followed their wedding, Kevin James and Steffiana de la Cruz built something that Hollywood doesn't always make space for: a stable, private family life. Together, they have 4 children. Their eldest daughter, Sienna Marie, was born in 2005. Their son, Canon Valentine, followed in 2007. Then came another daughter, Shay Joel, in 2009. and their youngest daughter, Sabella, was born in 2014. 4 children across nearly a decade of marriage, and through it all, Steffiana remained almost entirely removed from the public eye. This was not by accident, as Kevin James's film career reached new heights. Paul Blart Mall Cop in 2009, Grown-Ups alongside Adam Sandler and Chris Rock in 2010, and a string of successful comedies throughout the early 2010s. His personal life stayed remarkably quiet. Steffiana did not give interviews. She did not maintain a visible social media presence designed to cultivate followers. She showed up at events occasionally, always poised and warm, but she never positioned herself as a celebrity-adjacent figure, seeking her own spotlight. There is something almost countercultural about a person who could leverage proximity to fame and chooses not to. No marriage that spans 2 decades exists in a vacuum, and Kevin James and Steffiana's relationship has not been immune to the rumors that tend to swirl around anyone connected to Hollywood. Over the years, various gossip outlets have periodically surfaced questions about the couple's relationship, as tends to happen when a celebrity maintains a low public profile with their spouse. The absence of frequent joint appearances or curated social media moments has occasionally been misread by tabloids as a sign of trouble. There have been no credible, verified reports of separation, no legal filings, no public statements from either party suggesting anything other than a continued commitment to their family. Kevin James has spoken in interviews about the conscious choice he and Steffiana made to protect their children from unnecessary public exposure. He has been candid about the fact that fame has costs, and that one of the most important decisions he made was to keep his home life a sanctuary from the noise of the industry. His career did go through its own evolution. The mid-2010s saw some of his films receive mixed critical reception, but his fan base remained loyal. He moved into streaming projects and continued performing stand-up. Through all of it, Steffiana remained a consistent, grounding presence. So, where is Steffiana de la Cruz today? She is by nearly every available indication, exactly where she has always chosen to be: at home, present, and private. Steffiana does not maintain a prominent public social media presence, and she rarely gives interviews. She has been spotted at select public events with Kevin James over the years, film premieres, charity functions, occasional industry gatherings, and by all accounts, she carries herself with the same understated grace she always has. She and Kevin James are still married. As of the time of this video, their marriage stands at over 2 decades, a length of time that in Hollywood terms is genuinely remarkable. They are raising 4 children together, and the family appears to remain close-knit and intentionally shielded from the full glare of celebrity culture. Steffiana has not pursued an entertainment career of her own in any significant way. That was never her path. She has instead built something quieter and arguably more meaningful, a real life, on her own terms, alongside a man who by all accounts loves her deeply. There is a version of this story that Hollywood would have written very differently. The famous comedian meets a woman outside his world. There is tension, there is adjustment, there are competing demands, and eventually the whole thing unravels publicly. That is the story we are conditioned to expect. Kevin James and Steffiana de la Cruz have simply refused to live that version. What their relationship reflects and what makes it genuinely worth examining is that the most sustainable foundations in life are often the quietest ones. Fame is loud by nature, but the people who endure it best tend to have something outside of it that keeps them whole. Steffiana de la Cruz did not become famous. She became something harder to achieve and arguably more valuable. A steady private person who built a life that did not require anyone's approval or attention to mean something. And Kevin James, for all his visibility, seems to have understood early on that the best thing he could do off screen was exactly that: step off the screen. So here is something worth thinking about as you close this video. In a world that rewards constant visibility, what does it say about a person when they actively choose to disappear from it? And is there something we as an audience could learn from the way this particular couple decided to live? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.